Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today I am taking a look at Bitcoin. Might take a look at others as well, but for now, Bitcoin is doing what it needs to do. It had a double nine, so you could see the sequential, right? We came up, had a nine, sort of consolidated, broke up again, had another nine on the weekly, and you could see this big fat rejection wick, the nine called the top of this wave pretty nicely. So you know you could say, well, how do you know it wasn't this nine that called the top? Well, because you want to do it in waves as well. You want sort of you don't use it alone. You want to use it together. So you could say this is one, two, three, right? If that was the third wave, well, you still need four and then five. So if you're on the fifth wave and you have a nine and you have the rejection wick and it's on the weekly and you haven't tested the bull market support band and you haven't back tested the breakout area of 31K, there's a big chance that it's a correction and it's coming, and that's what happened exactly. And if I zoom in, it was in the formation of a flat pattern. And you can see even on the 2-day chart right here, you had a 9 and it printed these red dots right in here. We broke above the red dot slightly, then came back below it, couldn't do it, right? So down here are your green dots, though basically the red is your resistance, green is a support. So the green dots are basically your setup trend line, right? So basically, what I'm doing here is I'm using it in relation with the bull market support band. So you could see, number one, you have this area right in here, this little range right in here that hasn't been back tested. That's number one. Number two, you have these these green dots. Okay. Number three, you have the bull market support band right in here. So you have a lot of area that's coming up for support. Now, it could blow right past it easily, no problem, right? But statistically, probability says, we should get a bounce coming. You could see also run a 7, run a red 7, which means we could be getting a 9 coming soon. And basically what TD sequential is, it's right here, TD sequential fence V3.0 without alerts. There's different variations of them, but if you go to Google, you can learn more about that. It's basically just an indicator that lets you know when the trend has become exhausted to the upside or to the downside. Now, just because it gets exhausted doesn't mean you reverse, right? It could be a reversal. I know there's an indicator out there called the MRI, which is a momentum reversal indicator, and it's predicated based off TD sequential, which is the guy named Tom DeMark. I think that's his name. He invented it. It's been around for a while, and I think it's pretty useful when you use it in conjunction with others, right, with other indicators. But yeah, so let's see if we could go through a few examples. It really depends too on the time frame, right? It's not perfect by no means, but it sort of gives you an idea of what's happening. I think it works better when you go up the time scale. Maybe let's check the weekly chart. But when you go too high, right? Like right here was a good area. This was a good example. You had a 9. You sort of went sideways. You had another 9, you pull back, right? And then you come up, come back down, test the bull market support band. And this was a beautiful run up right here, where you had a green 1, a green 2 going above a green 1, a green 4 going above a green 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Perfect. And then it printed those red dots right here. And then we came down, back tested the bull market support band, and look at that wick right there. you could see this wick right here, it perfectly rejected that red dot. So it's like, how did it know, right? Because that 9 printed that red dot, right? And then we finally broke above the red dot, then we back tested it. So that's cool right here. So I'll put a line right on the red dots, and you could see right here we back tested it. And then we continued going higher, and then we had a 9. Obviously it didn't call the very top, but again, it's not perfect. No indicator is perfect. You know, and then look at here. Here's a 9 buy, but just because it's a 9 buy doesn't mean you're going to go a new bull run or anything. But that 9 buy led to a good 25%. So it's really used by traders and things like that. So you know, it really depends how you try to use it. But you could see, you know, we run up into a 9, we go sideways, we break out. Now, when you get a 9, usually it means you're going to reverse or you're going to pause. Now, if it blows right past through the 9, then maybe look at a different time frame using Elliott wave or some other indicator, right? You could see here, we had a 9, then we sort of paused. We broke up, we back tested, we came up again. We had another 9, and look what happened. We went flat for a couple weeks. We finally broke up, right? So this 9 wasn't really perfected because obviously the 6 was higher, but you can kind of see it was leading into that, right? So for example, if I have a 7 that's rejecting or an 8 that's rejecting, then I kind of know, hey, next week's going to be a 9, so I might take my profit or whatever, right? This was sort of a good one here. Right here, you had a 9 buy right there, but you could see the 9 wasn't activated. Now the 9 only gets activated if it breaks above its own body, in which case is the red dots, right? So the 9 pulls down. People think, okay, the 9 it wasn't there, but then what happened is it was a flat, right? This was a flat pattern where it came up, then down, and then it shot up, right? That was a flat, and that's kind of like what's happening now, but just reversed. But anyway, we broke above the red dots. And then we came down, we back tested the bull market support band. That's why I like it. I like the bull market support band, and I like TD sequential, along with RSI, the MACD. You know, you don't have to have every single indicator in the book. You just have to have sort of, you know, an arsenal of maybe 3 or 4 up to 5, right? And when you use it together with the phases of the market and you use it with Elliott wave, I think it could be very useful. If you use it all by itself, it could be a little challenging. So like for example, check this out. This was a 9 buy right here, but look what happened. It just collapsed, right? And then it printed these red dots, and then it broke above, and it thought, okay, now it's activated, but guess what? It came right back down. So there's an example of it not doing what you think, right? But then if you look closely, it was in the middle of a wave. So for example, you know, if you're thinking this is going to be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, well, it only happened on wave 1, right? So on the first wave, it should have been here. You come up into a pullback, then you come down, and then the 9 theoretically should be here. It was here, but here, right? And then you get a pullback. Then you come down again, right? Get another 9, get a pullback, right? And finally, you dump down in here, right? So, I mean, I could change the time frame. Like, let's see. Let's just do a random. Let's try the 4-day chart. Take everything off the screen. Just kind of having fun with the indicator, just seeing if what we got here. So, yeah, this one's not really helpful at all. Let's try the 3-day chart. This one's a little better. You can kind of see here You had a 9 and a pause. You had a 9 and a pause, right? You had a 9 buy and a breakout. You had a 9 sell and a pause. You had a breakout and then a 9 sell and now a correction, right? Look at this 9. That was a 9 buy, but it didn't go anywhere. And I probably wouldn't have gotten that 9 anyway, but it did look pretty good because it broke up and then it back tested the bull market support band with a 9 buy. But, you know, when it broke out, you could see here. That's why you always wait. You don't want to jump in right away if you're trading. By the way, none of this is financial advice. I'm just showing you, you know, what I'm showing you and with this indicator. We'll get into the price and what I think's happening in a moment. Just kind of wanted to run down this indicator first, in case you haven't seen it. I know people had a hard time finding it. If you search it in the indicators section, and sometimes it doesn't want to pop up. Not sure how to fix that. I know TradingView a lot of times doesn't like to show indicators that are, you know, it says it doesn't exist when in fact it does exist. So, but anyway, you can see we had a 9 buy here and it looked like it was going to reverse, but then you had this sharp reversal. Bam, it came back down. And then that says, okay, that was a fake out, right? And then once you had that 9 with this sort of reversal candle, then you had the big dump. But then you had another 9, right? Another 9 buy, and that led into this big bull run. And then you had a 9 sell, and it sort of went flat, right? Sort of like in this sort of ascending triangle type of thing in here, right? And then we broke out with another 9. Take all that off. So anyways, I think it's a pretty cool indicator, right? But anyway, so right now, if I go to the daily chart, we're on a 7. So in about 3 hours from the time of recording this video, so basically later this evening, we'll be on an 8. And then tomorrow evening, we should be on a 9 buy, right? We should get that 9 buy. Now, if it flips right here, it could flip the count, right? So we kind of want it to continue to go down. I really would like to see the price come down to between 36K and about, in the 36K area. If we can get between, 36 and up to 37. So between 36 and 37K is a good area for me to see if we can get a reaction or a reversal, right? Because I've been thinking this is some type of flat right here. You have your 9, you come down in an A, you go up in a B, right? And then now you're working in a C wave, right? So let's see if we can get down here. And it would actually work perfect because not only you're using the 9, but you're also using the bull market support band. You're also using this pattern in Elliott wave, which could be an A, B, C. It's not confirmed. Nothing is ever confirmed until, it reacts or it, breaks out or it reverses or whatever. But for now, we're just dumping. So we can continue to dump like this and then continue to dump. And then obviously this flat was a no-go, right? So not to say that's going to happen, but we can't rule it out until it rules itself out, right? So, and then you're also using, the TD sequential with the bull market support band, with the Elliott wave, with basic resistance or support and resistance, right? So it sort of lines up into this area. Now, maybe traders see that and they're going to preemptively buy it before it gets there, right? So, they sort of, buy it before it gets to that area, thinking that, they want to get ahead of the masses, right? So then what you can do also is use your Fibonacci, right? So you're using everything together. Elliott wave, TD, support, bull market support band. So if I put this here, and then I put that from the A wave down to the B wave, right? And then I'm going to drag it all the way up to the B wave, right? Sorry, from the bottom, or from the top of the A to the bottom of the A to the top of the B, right? And then that gets you, right now, we are at that 2.14, 2.618. So that 38K could be a good area. You could see the 3 is right there, the 3 and the 3.272, right? So ideally you want it somewhere between here. So that would be the ideal spot. So I was kind of hoping that that would be a little further down, but it's okay. If it wants to land down in here, hey, we'll see if it gets a reaction. But somewhere in that zone should be a good reversal area for the price to start heading back up. So take everything off the screen. Let's take all the indicator, take that off. Just look at it in its naked form. The current candle is sort of a doji type style candle, which, you know, could potentially mean that we could start, you know, fizzling out here, maybe hit the low again, and then start to reverse back up. But either way, it's looking, you know, still pretty good. Still, I don't think it's finished yet. It's kind of hard to count it. You got a 1, 2. You could say this is 3, but let's be conservative and say that's 3. This is 4, and now we're sort of heading down in the 5th wave, right? So let's see if we can look closely here. We have a 1, 2. I think this could be all 3, 4, and then maybe we get one more for 5. And hopefully that gets us down in here. I really want to see this bull market support band get tested, because we want to see a reaction off of it, right? I mean, we can wick down there. If we sort of pause out in here and then start reversing back up, I wouldn't like that, because then my thinking would be we're not reversing, we're just retracing. So if we pause out in here and we start heading back up, I'm thinking, okay, we're just going to start heading back down again until we officially test it, right? So you can think of this as an A, then we come up in a B, and then we come down for C, right? But yeah, and then if that's the case, then this whole thing wouldn't be a flat anymore. It would be something else, you know, like an A, or we come down A and then a B, and then we come down for C. And if that's the case, if we pause out here, I'm thinking, okay, we're going to go in a retracement. But if we land on the bull market support band, then we have a good chance of reversing officially, right? But either way, I think we should be ranging here for a while. Before I get into that, I'm thinking, again, A, if we pause out here, B, and then we come down for C, which would break the bull market support band. But that's okay, because we have this area that has never been tested, which is that 3130K area. So you could see we ranged in here for quite some time. All of that range, I think that was what, 6 months? We broke out of the range. We pumped up with bearish divergence, but we never came back down to back test it, right? We should have broke out here, came all the way down here, back tested, and then continued on. But we just grinded our way up, broke out, grinded our way up, broke out, right? So what I'm thinking is now is we have an accumulation range here, which was in the shape of an inverse head and shoulders. You can see the left shoulder, the head, the right shoulder. We broke out, right? And then we ranged again. So my thinking here is we could probably start ranging yet again. So range, breakout, range, breakout, range. So we still have a lot of work to do, right? Number one, I want to see the bull market support band get tested. Number two, I want to see a reaction off of that. Number three, probably come back down and back test this. And then that is our chance to either break out and get out of here or continue to range like this until we make a decision up or down. But as far as altcoins go, I think that if we are in this final area and we do break down, I think we can still get a sort of mini alt season, because usually alts like to run after Bitcoin had already run and as it's in distribution. I did a video about that yesterday, showing the relationship between Bitcoin and the price of Theta. So if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend I show you the environment needed in order for an altcoin to sort of break out and go. And usually that environment is, number one, a pump to the upside, which we got. Number two, you top out in distribution, right? And then as you oscillate down, oscillate back up, oscillate down, oscillate back up, you're in distribution, right? But the thing is, when you oscillate back up, you get these big breakouts, right? And then when the price oscillates back down, you get these pullbacks. And then when it oscillates back up, you know, you're oscillating in a range, right? That's when you get these big breakouts in the price of, you know, Theta or whatever. You could see over here, this run up, this range right in here. That's when a lot of the altcoins started to run. That's when a lot of the altcoins broke out in a big, big way, right? Bitcoin had to go up, 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 all the way up here. And then when it finally topped out, that's when the altcoins started really to run and break out. Yes, they already started pumping a bit, but nowhere near as when it got up into here. So look what happened. When Bitcoin dumped, they had a little pullback. But then look what happened. When Bitcoin pumped up, they had a big breakout. You can see right here, I'll just do it real quick, side by side. This dark colored chart, right, is the price of Theta. The top one is Bitcoin. And you can see, let me put a line. This is right where it broke out. So this is the last candle before the big breakout on these dark colored candles. So I'll put it right there. And look where Bitcoin was. Bitcoin had already ended, right? I mean, look at that. Bitcoin already went from all the way up to, had already did its bull run. The bull run was over with. Bitcoin's bull run was over. And when it was over, then it oscillated up, back down, up, back down, up, and then it finally dumped. But as it was ranging in this yellow box, right? As it was ranging in this yellow box, that's when you saw the price of Theta pump to the upside right here. And what was that pump for Bitcoin? Just that little tiny pump. Just that little tiny pump was all it needed for this big breakout to happen. So that's what I'm saying. That's the environment that it needs. A lot of people think they have to run together. No. Altcoins and Bitcoin are in a totally different horse race, right? So let's go to where we are now. Take everything off the screen here. And you can see, right? Let me scale it properly. You could see if Bitcoin is finally in distribution, right, where it sort of oscillates down, oscillates up, oscillates down. Like here, we had a range, and now we're probably in another range. Now, as it starts to range, that's when the altcoins move. Not when Bitcoin breaks out here, not when it breaks out here, right? It's when it starts to oscillate down, oscillate up. So if we come down and test the bull market support band, then we pump up to the upside. As we get that little tiny pump, that's all it needs for Theta or whatever coin to get a big breakout, right? Remember, just like back over here, right? You see this pump right here. This pump right here was all it needed for Theta to do this big pump there. So that's what I'm saying. We can get something like that with altcoins. Now, it could be Bitcoin, it could be XRP, it could be, Matic or Solana or I don't know, whatever coin is set up for that. It's not going to be all of them, but it could be some of them. Maybe SHIB. I think SHIB is in a potentially good spot. So there you go. That's what I'm thinking for Bitcoin. I think, number one, there's no sense of talking about it, right, until we get down here. If we start to reverse back up, that's fine. We're just going to maybe come back down again and retest it. If we do reverse up and break out, great. Hey, that caught me off surprise, and that would be an ABC flat. It was done, and that's all it needed. Great. But something tells me we're going to range in here in a while. And if you're an altcoin holder, you kind of want that. You kind of want it to just sort of range in here because that's what it needs for altcoins to pump up. So there you go. That's what I got for you here today. Now, let's take a look at XRP. You can see XRP broke below the bull market support band. That's fine. It's okay because according to the contracting triangle, I've been wanting this to be sort of an A, B, and then a C, right? B and then a C. So maybe C comes down here somewhere, right? Before that big breakout. So maybe we come down a little further, right? We come down a little further as Bitcoin is coming down to the bull market support band, or as it's going down to 31K, or as it's back testing, that breakout area. That's when XRP continues to flow. But then once it starts to oscillate back to the upside, that's potentially when XRP can get a big breakout, right? So let's actually compare. Well, okay, let's do that. We'll do XRP on the dark colored chart. Okay, so for example, if this is some type of, diagonal where you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? A diagonal, or like some type of wedge, right? And then you get an A, B, C, right? As we're getting that C wave, that could be when Bitcoin comes down and either test the bull market support band or back test the top of this 31K area. So we come down here, So A, B, C. But then, let me do this. Here's your range right here, number 1. Here's your second range, number 2. And now we're in our third range, right? So, as we start to come down, that's obviously, right, when XRP comes down. But then check this out. Remember what I just showed with the price of Theta, right? If we oscillate back up, right, if we backtest this area, or backtest the bull market support band, and then get a reaction and break up here, and then sort of do that, right? That's when XRP finishing its ABC, right? When it finishes it, and as Bitcoin oscillates back to the upside, that's when XRP can have a big breakout, right? Something like this and catch up to Bitcoin. Then look what happens. Then Bitcoin pulls back, right? It's basically oscillating just like it did here, just like it did here, and just like it did way up here. This is where you could see, look at XRP. Look at this. Bitcoin went first. It's going. It's over. Done. It's done. Bitcoin is finished right here. But look, XRP didn't even get started yet. Once Bitcoin stopped and started to range, oscillate down and up, down and up. That's when XRP, boom, straight shot, literally took a couple weeks and boom, it was there. So that's what I'm saying. If we can get that same type of thing where we range up and then range back down, so let's say it ranges back down, right? That's when XRP can get a pullback. And then as it ranges back to the upside, right? That's when XRP can really break out and potentially, right, go into a new all-time high, which I think is very likely given the fact that it never broke into a new all-time high. It still is playing catch up from its previous cycle because this bull run was a Bitcoin bull run. This XRP run was just a retracement, right? So there you go. I think the environment is being perfectly set up. You have the stock market breaking out. You have the dollar in, sort of complacent. You have, the stock market breaking out. You have Bitcoin going up since 2023 all the way to 2024. Now you have it in a range. And what do you need? A range. And then you can argue and say, well, yeah, but this is just a range and a retracement. This was a range at the top of a bull market. And you're right. That is so true. However, when you look at even further back, same thing over here. This was sort of, not a good example of what I'm trying to argue here. But you can see Bitcoin had already topped here. It pulled down and then it went into a retracement. As it went into a retracement right here, that's when sort of XRP took off. But the timing is way different. But again, you can have these big bull runs. Maybe we don't have a new all-time high. Maybe we just get a big pump up to, $2 or $3, right? Either way, it's possible because you have these sort of mini alt seasons. Remember alt season? When's the last time we had an alt season? Don't you think we're overdue? Bitcoin, right, had a retracement. Bitcoin is potentially ranging in its retracement level. If it's doing that and it's in distribution, then it sets up the environment for people to rotate their Bitcoin in distribution back into coins that are low risk opportunity, especially XRP, because XRP never broke into a new all-time high, right? So people rotate, right, their Bitcoin into XRP or whatever altcoin. And then as you get that oscillation back up, that's when you get the big breakouts. So that's my main thinking here. That is my main sort of hope. I could be wrong, right? And I do have a bullish bias, right? I am holding XRP. I have a bullish bias. This is what I want to happen. But at the same time, the facts are saying this is definitely possible, right? Because of everything I just stated, especially knowing how Bitcoin likes to run, right? So let me take everything off here. So, for example, when Bitcoin bottoms, that's when alts are completely devastated. When Bitcoin finally breaks out, that's when alts sort of, bottom here. When Bitcoin breaks out, that's when the alts start to kind of go. But then when Bitcoin starts to range, that's when the alts totally rampage to the upside. And that's sort of what I'm saying here. So it could be that THETA is down here, XRP is down here, your favorite altcoin is down here, right? And now that Bitcoin is done pumping, it could be ranging in here, right? And now we can get that big breakout, just kind of how like Chainlink did, right? Let me pull up Chainlink and see. Well, you can see Chainlink actually is a bad example. Chainlink broke out with Bitcoin. So you can see here, Chainlink is sort of one of those one-off, but look at Chainlink broke out with Bitcoin. and now it's ranging with Bitcoin. But you can see here, check this out. As Bitcoin was pumping up, Chainlink was going sideways, right? And then once finally Bitcoin broke out it broke out once, right? And then it broke out twice. When it broke out the second time, that's when, you're going flat. That's when it catches up, right? Kind of the same thing with Solana. You can see here with Solana, you can see, look at Bitcoin's going up, 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 but look at Solana, it's going flat, right? Basically, Bitcoin needs to prove to the market that it's bullish. So the altcoins are just like flat, 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 right? And Bitcoin's going up, 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 up. But then, once Bitcoin finally breaks out, or, has that confirmation that this was a real pump, right? 1, 2, 3, when it has that final push up, that's when Solana catches up, right? So Solana didn't need to do all of this and up here. All Solana needed to do is one straight shot, boom, it's done. And that's how altcoins roll. And that's why I like them. And that's why they give good percentage gains. Yes, they're very short-lived, but they catch up immediately. So you can see Bitcoin, it takes a lot of time for it to go up and then break out. But the whole point is, right, when Bitcoin finally, comes up, that's when the altcoins break up. Now, as far as the ranging, what I could see happening here is if Bitcoin comes down, right, and then it tests the bull market support band or even down here, and then it oscillates back up, that's when we can get this pullback, because we had one wave, now we're pulling back, right? And then as Bitcoin oscillates up, then Solana can potentially have a bigger breakout, right? If it's set up for that. But, it already had a pretty big breakout, so I wouldn't be even touching it. But like if you look at XRP and THETA, let's put up THETA here. You can kind of see the same difference, right, with Solana. Now look what's happening. Check it out. You could see Bitcoin going up, right? And then look, THETA's going sideways. It had this little breakout, but guess what? What about Solana and Chainlink, right? Same example. Chainlink was going sideways, then boom, it broke out. Solana was going sideways, then boom, it broke out. How? When Bitcoin broke out, right? But now you can get these bigger moves in distribution, right? So if Bitcoin is in a range, right, here's all the ranges. So now Bitcoin comes down, right? Just like how THETA is coming down. Look how small THETA is compared to Bitcoin, right? In its pumpingness, right? Let me try to get it a little bit. There we go. You could see, let me draw this range again. There, and then here. So as it comes down, we're coming down. But then when we oscillate back to the upside, that's when we can catch up. Right? It doesn't necessarily have to break this high and go into a new all-time run, because then we would have to go sideways and wait for Bitcoin to stop, then go, right? So my main thinking is, let's see what happens when we get down here. And if we can get that reversal, right? Not break out into new all-time high, but just oscillate up, oscillate down, oscillate up, oscillate down. And as we oscillate up, we get these pumps. As we oscillate down, we get a pullback. Oscillate back up, we get even another pump. And then what do we have? A 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's my hope. That's what I would love to see happen. That's what I think can happen, right? Now let's be bearish about it. Now let's challenge our bullish bias and say, well, what if we're totally wrong? What else is happening? Well, to me, what I can see happening here, right, is if this is a top, which I think it could be, right? But even if it is a top, we still have to oscillate in here in distribution before coming down, right? And I've always said that it's most likely a rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation, sideways, blast off. So we're going to go back down into reaccumulation and then go. But as we're up here meandering up and down, we can get these little mini alt seasons. So we'll see if that happens, right? But if that occurs, the worst thing that can happen for like theta, right, if Bitcoin gets that oscillation back up, I still think either way, we got to get another pump to the upside, because this is not a finished wave. We have 1, 2, or an A, B. So we either need a 1, 2, 3 or a 1, 2 or an A, B, C, right? I guess it's possible for this thing to just roll down. So basically, my bullish bias being challenged is to say that this can, at least get a little pump and then start working its way down, right? That would be sort of worst case scenario as Bitcoin ranges. But I can't see that happening, because if we're ranging in here, why would theta just dump like that? It doesn't make sense, especially having a big impulse off the bottom. So there you go. That's kind of what I'm thinking here. But if it does break to the downside, then it's no longer a shoulder, a head, and then a shoulder, right? That's sort of what I'm thinking now, is this shoulder being developed and then a bigger breakout. Because if you have a big move to the downside and then you go flat, you sort of need a retracement first, just like the market, the psychology of the market, the cheat sheet, just like Wyckoff accumulation, right? But if Bitcoin just tumbles, then what hope does it have? But I still think it would just continue to range. For example, worst case scenario, obviously break down. But even more likely would be just to do this, would just be to continue, finding its way before it breaks out, right? Something like that. But I don't think that's the case. I think we're going to get out of here at some point. So I think the low is in right here, and I think we're heading on up. Now, what happens when we get up here? That's the big dilemma. That's the big question, because that can turn into another low, right? Because that could be an A, a B, and then a C. Or we can just have, better yet, my big thing is a rise, crash. We go into a retracement. Then we come down into reaccumulation. And then we go. So Bitcoin's up here. Theta's down here. Right? And XRP's way down here. So that's why I'm thinking XRP's probably got the most to catch up, but we'll see how that plays out. So my best guess for XRP would be, this is a rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation, sideways. We already have all the necessary requirements, right? And by the way, my YouTube channel is called XRP Brandon. That's just temporary. That's not going to be that forever. I'm not playing favoritism, although XRP is my biggest bag. It is my top coin, but I'm not a XRP maximalist by any means. Not even close. But I'm so passionate about it, I guess you can say, because everything has been sort of checked out. We have the rise, we have the crash, we have the retracement, we have the reaccumulation, we have the sideways base. So it's like everything's there, right? So I'm kind of like highlighting or showcasing my liking for XRP, just because we are there. My channel wasn't like that before. I just recently changed it, probably like eight or 9 months ago, I guess. So it was just regular, like Brandon 2891 or something. I don't know. but I changed it to XRP Brandon just to showcase my liking for XRP and based on where it's at in the phases. Now, if XRP, right, thinks, has this A, B, C, and then we start to get out of here in some way, and then I take my profit, right, I'm no longer interested at that point. I mean, of course, I'm always going to hold and I'm going to be a long-term investor, but, I'd like to see what happens. Maybe we come down, then I buy the dip, right? But when we get up here, or even worse down here, I'd probably change my name to just maybe Crypto Brandon, or I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, I digress on that. That's off topic. But anyway, in case you were wondering, someone asked, hey, I take it you're more into XRP than Theta because your name is XRP Brandon. And it kind of, from basically, whatever coin I think has the biggest potential, that's the one I'm sort of showcasing, or what the people like to say, shilling. But I don't like that word. I don't like to shill coins, even though, not the coin itself, but the fact about where it is has me in, because no other coin is where XRP is at. Nothing. No Bitcoin, Solana, any of the big names, they're nowhere near where XRP is. And you could say XRP is crap, but I have a whole other video. I've talked probably an hour and 20 minutes, several different times. So if you want to know why I'm so passionate about XRP, just go back a few videos and click on the XRP video. Even if you don't like it, who cares if you don't like it? It's not about liking it, or it's a banker coin or this or that. It's about me and you making money. That's what it's about, right? So it's about what asset doesn't matter what it is. It's about what asset can put us in a position for maximum potential. And I've scoured all the charts and I can't find anything that comes close, especially the fact, look at this base. XRP has the biggest base in crypto history, more than any other chart on planet Earth, as far as crypto. It has not broken its 2017, 2018 all-time high. Yet, it still remained in the top 10. No other coin can say that. All the top 10 coins broke into new all-time highs. But XRP did not. But it still held the top 10 title. And it had a lawsuit on its name, and it still held the top 10 title. And it had exchanges, major exchanges like Coinbase, delist XRP, and it still held the top 10 title. And it never broke into a new all-time high like Ethereum and Bitcoin and Solana and Matic and all the other coins that did the same exact thing. Right? So, in other words, XRP is massively overdue. And the more people give up on it, the more people talk crap about it, the happier I get. Because that tells me we're close. It's like the calm before the storm. People give up, right? It's like, you're telling people, hey, winter is coming, and they don't listen. But then once it finally hits, they're stuck in the blizzard and they're like, man, I wish I would have known. So, I mean, you can even see it down here. We had a rise, a crash, a retrace, a reaccumulation, sideways, blast off. Same thing here. We have a rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation, sideways, and what comes next? Hopefully, potentially, not financial advice, but a blast off. I don't know. It could be next year. I don't know. We could just go like this for another year. I don't know. But I want to be positioned before that happens, right? So I'm sort of excited because now that, pretend this is Bitcoin right here, right? And now it's in this retracement as it's in distribution or oscillating up and down. That's when we can get these sharp moves to the upside. And it only takes a week to catch up. It only takes a couple days to catch up. A month at the most, right? For these altcoins to really blast off and they're literally up 200-300% in a matter of weeks, and they're already at the point where they should be, right? So for example, Bitcoin did, this was the bull run, right? All the bull runs. But look at, this wasn't a bull run. This was just a retracement. So as the whole market did a bull run, Bitcoin, XRP just did a retracement. Now that the whole market is in a bear market, that's when XRP is in reaccumulation. Now that Bitcoin's in a retracement, that's when XRP is going sideways. So as it goes back into distribution, that would be my hope that we can break out of here. Finally, right? And it checks out too, because if you look at it from an Elliott wave perspective, you have an A, B, C, potentially D. Maybe D's not finished yet, but D, and then an E, right? So you have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then finally, you potentially have 1, 2, 3. And that final wave comes in when Bitcoin hits that bull market support band, or even worst case 31K. And then when Bitcoin oscillates back to the upside, that's when you can get that big breakout, just like Solana, just like Chainlink, just like THETA did back in the day when Bitcoin, right? Let me pull up Bitcoin here. When Bitcoin was, let me hide that. When Bitcoin was up here, it was done. The bull market was over. But THETA had not run yet. It hadn't run yet, right? Once it got up into here, as it oscillated up, that's when THETA ran up. It pulled back, that's when you had a pullback, right? As it oscillated back up, that's when you had even a bigger breakout. So hopefully this is what's happening now, right? Something like this. And this would allow XRP, as you oscillate up, that allows it to break out. Now, you can make a big and perfect argument, and I totally concur, to say that, yeah, that's true, but Bitcoin was in a bull market and it had already broken a new all-time high. This time, we are not. We are in a retracement. That is true, and I agree with you 100%. The thing is, I wouldn't totally rule it out, right? Because number one, if you look at a lot of the altcoins, they don't look finished yet, right? Like THETA, right? It doesn't look like it's it still looks like it has to go somehow, some way. It needs to get into a retracement. Even if it wants to take out this low, it still should come back up and then go down into a retracement, right? And then even if you look closer, you could see it doesn't look finished yet either, because you had one wave, impulse up, correction down. I mean, sure, you can just continue going down, but it just doesn't seem right. I mean, I could be wrong, but to me, it looks like this was an accumulation range. Look how long we've been going sideways. People are accumulating. You have a cup into the resistance, cup into the resistance, cup into the resistance, potentially another cup into the resistance. So if Bitcoin does sort of head down, we could have a pullback, right? But eventually we're probably going to break out of here. So in other words, going back to the thing is, if Bitcoin's in a retracement, right? How the heck can an altcoin break out? Well, I never said it has to break out and go into a new all-time high, but it can at least play catch-up, right? It can at least play catch-up. THETA can catch up, right? Because if you look at THETA, it's way down here. Bitcoin's way up here. So as Bitcoin's chilling out, THETA can catch up really quick. Just like how it caught up extremely quick when Bitcoin chilled out up here. So, and then for XRP, right? This thing looks like it's ready to go, but maybe it doesn't break into a new all-time high. Maybe it doesn't even break that, but at least it can catch up in some kind of way, right? Because it's so far behind, right? If you look at Bitcoin, Bitcoin's sitting way up here, right? Bitcoin's sitting way up here. XRP sitting way down here. Theta is like right about there. So it doesn't take much for XRP to just go like this in a straight line, just like how it went in a straight line here, and then even a straight line sideways, straight line, right? So all of this is just garbage. But to me, it's not garbage. It's like a painting. It's like a Picasso painting. And people think it sucks, it's terrible. And yeah, I agree. We all want that moonshot. But at the end of the day, the bigger the base, right, the higher in space. So that's, not to take anything away from Theta or from Bitcoin, because I believe they're going to do extremely well, especially Theta. I think Theta is going to, this thing is such a small market cap, right? It had one of the biggest runs from here, from literally 3 cents all the way up to $15, way bigger than XRP, right? That in percentage terms, right? It went from 3 cents all the way up to $15, $16. XRP was fractions of a penny, but it went up to about $3.30. Well, I take that back. So XRP is 64,000%, and then Theta was, and by the way, I didn't even measure it from the wick on XRP. I just measured it from the body, but I'll measure it from here on the wick. This was about 46,000. So if I measure it from just the body up to here, that's about 61,000. So that's a big difference, right? And if I measure it from this wick, which is not on a lot of exchanges, but I'll just measure it from this low here. Yeah, you're looking at over 100,000%. So this thing had a much bigger bull run. You could say, well, all the percentages are leaked out already as far as market, but at the end of the day, it's about being diversified. You want to have, not financial advice, but I want to have XRP. I want to have Theta. I want to have various other altcoins that I think are in a position of strength. It's not about, propping up one and crapping on the other, right? And it's okay to do that if you're looking at it from a technical perspective or from a percentage perspective. But from a fundamental perspective, they have to be on their stuff, right? Like Ripple, the company, as far as working with banks and partnerships, being at Davos, being Ripple, the company, immersing themselves with partnerships and banks. Theta, same thing, but just different, right? With the internet and bandwidth and streaming and totally different things. But basically, the utility value has to be there. So, but if you look at Dogecoin, right? What utility value did that have? And yet it did something amazing. And I like to compare, Dogecoin with XRP as far as this move it had. It had this little base, this pump up, right? And then it went sideways for a long time. It had its retracement. It went sideways, rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation, sideways, blast off. So, take a mental screenshot of that and then compare it to XRP. It looks very similar. We have the base, this pump up, right? And then you're going sideways, rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation. So you're sort of like in this little area before that big pump to the upside. So we'll see what happens. I don't know what's going to happen. I could be totally wrong, but I'm just trying to put the puzzle pieces together like everybody else. I still think we have more downside potential for XRP. So don't be surprised if this thing comes, boom, boom, all the way down here somewhere. before going up. We'll see what happens. But anyway, thank you guys so much for listening and watching. And if you can, please leave a like, a subscribe. I really appreciate it. And I will catch you on the next one. Cheers.